Listen, people could be wrong in your life. Don't let that make you wrong. Don't take things personal. Take him personal. And don't say, well, I wouldn't be this way if they didn't. Stop. Who's they? What? Wait. Why can't you say, I'm this way because he's this way? Why don't you let him trump whatever's wrong? Listen, my daddy was an alcoholic, drank. I didn't have a daddy that like you could have in your life. Now, he was functional. He worked. We didn't have a lot of money, though. He spent. He gambled. He drank. He was hard on us. He took me fishing and hunting when I was real little, but it wasn't like Dad would just go throw a baseball. It wasn't like Dad would just go shoot a basketball. Dad didn't do stuff like he wouldn't say, hey, kids, let's get in the car and go bowl, or let's go play miniature golf. Never one time did I have any of that with my dad, not one time. But I don't resent that. I'm not mad at that. And it taught me. I looked at him and I said, man, and I just feel it was like grace, but I'm passing this on. I looked at him and I thought, you know what? I was young. I thought, I'm never going to drink. Because I saw what it did to him. I saw what it did to us. And you know what? Some people say, well, I just smoked pot because I grew up with it, man. My parents were smoking pot. I was smoking pot when I was 13 because they were smoking pot. Probably a good reason why you shouldn't have smoked it. Because there was not blessings in your home. And it wasn't cool. And you weren't loved and cared for. So why are you following what's so miserable? So that was just grace. I just said, I ain't drinking because... So when I got saved, my dad freaked out on me because he got threatened by that. And he was just freaking. I didn't even know what was going on. And I was at the house. I thought they'd be happy because Mom's a praying woman. She was a good Christian girl. And now I'm saved. I grew up going to church because of Mama. I went to church off and on between 18 and 20. I kind of got sketchy at 18 and was definitely done by age 20 because I was married, had my little wife and car and house, and I don't need to go to church. And she thought she married a Christian because she said, are you a Christian? I just figured I am because I grew up in church and I live in America, and I just figured you're a Christian. And plus, she just got saved, and she wanted me to be a Christian, so if I said no, it might have affected us, so you got to tell her yes. She's like, are you a Christian? And I said, well, yeah. Yeah, I grew up in this church. I've been going to church my whole life. Oh, awesome. Well, I could have cared less about Jesus. I cared that she was 23 and I was 19, and I thought that was cool. And I honestly had one thing on my mind without having to preach that out. So I violated her conscience again and again and again in our engagement. And I had one goal in my mind. And I made her cry again and again and again because she had one goal in her mind, change. And the last thing she needed was me needing her. Because the truth is, she should never be flattered by that. Her job description on earth is never to scratch the itch of another or meet the need of another. Her identity on the earth and her job description on the earth is to shine and walk in love and manifest the nature of God. Let's stop using each other. There's nobody on the earth with a job description to meet your need and serve you. Why are we so arrogant? Why do we demand and expect and control and manipulate? It's sin at its finest. Y'all okay, right? I violated her, made her cry, and told her I loved her the whole time. Tried to compliment her. Told her, well, I just have trouble in this area because you're so hot and you move me. And so I figured that would flatter her. And she'd just cry. But I'd try it again. And I thought, well, if I can't hit a home run, I'll have a great batting average anyway. And I'll get on base and get a bunch of hits. I just won't hit a homer. So for 9 months, I did that to her and told her I loved her the whole time. Ain't that something? So then we get married, and I have no capacity to love her because I'm self-centered. So I lived that way 13 years, and after a while, people dry up and go bankrupt. And she didn't have enough revelation to sustain me. And she went dry. So we split up, and I laughed and mocked her and said, great. I've been done with you for a long time anyway. I wasted how many years with you? It was so sad that I'm even with you. That's how brutal you can be. Yeah. You say, man, I can't even imagine you like that. That's because I'm born again. Yeah. I don't have a Christian confession. I'm born again. I don't have a church attendance record. I'm born again. I am the church. And Jesus lives in me. And I'm happy about it. Yay. He lets me catch a lot of fish, dude. I didn't know I'd be on this testimony, but I'm here, so. So we split up. We're getting divorced, and I'm celebrating. So I'm looking in the mirror. I'm 33. I'm cheering myself on. I'm saying, Dan, you ain't the best-looking cat on the planet, but somebody's going to need you. And I was smart. I knew there's vulnerability out there. I said, somebody's going to need you or feel like they need you. You can do this. You can start over. So I lost 45 pounds and got myself ready for a new adventure. My wife had prayed for me for 13 years to change, and I never changed. I got worse. So when we split up and I mocked her and told her she's crazy and your whole family knows you're off your rocker, they feel bad for me because I married a cuckoo. That's how I talked to her on the back porch, and I saw her die inside, and I saw her harden and refuse to cry anymore. And I just, whatever, and I walked away. She told me she went into the bedroom, and she was like, I am done crying. I'm done hurting. And then she looked up at the Lord and said, and I'm done with you. Now listen to what she said. I have prayed to you for 13 years. For 13 years I've prayed to you, and you've done nothing. You've allowed me and these children to suffer through hell, and you have sat there and done nothing. I am done with you. Sounds rational to the hurting heart. And when you share that testimony to hurting people, they go, exactly, see? Where is he? And all of a sudden, he's your genie in a bottle, your busboy, your need meter. Not your father. So she walks off into darkness and makes her own path. In the process of about 5 months of living this way, I go to work one day. I'm moving on. I'm really in trouble. I just met the little sister of a good friend of mine growing up in school who had a crush on me when she was 12 and I was getting married. She cried because I was taken. And 12 and 20 is weird. Illegal, not to mention. Really weird. 12 and 20. But 25 and 33 doesn't sound bad. And I met her coming out of a convenience store, and we crossed paths, and I hadn't seen her for years. And I went, and I said her name as she was saying mine. And it was crazy because I saw that same little starry look come in her eyes. And she's available, and she still has that look. And I go, wow, this would be a good way to pass a season. Because my wife was 4 years older than me, so I thought 19 and 23 was amazing. I thought, this is a woman. And now she's 37 and I'm 33, and I'm thinking 25 is amazing. It's amazing how we just sell each other out. So I go to work, probably on the heels of making some of the greatest mistakes in my life. And Jesus isn't sitting back going, what a jerk. He's desperately coming after me. And where sins abound and grace is coming greater. And he comes and he starts speaking to my heart, and I don't even know it's him. He says, you don't even know if God's real. Because I would have told you I was a Christian on that day. Hadn't been to church for 13 years, devastated my marriage and my wife. I got other intentions on my heart, and fornication would have been simple. But I'd have told you I was a Christian because I had a heritage of church. And I'd have said, oh, I believe in God. But the Lord said, you don't even know if God's really real. And I blew it off and kept working like, why am I thinking about God? And it came again, and I couldn't blow it off. He was out to get me. This man loves me. I couldn't blow it off. And all of a sudden, I looked into my heart, and for the first time in my life, I got serious and real with myself. I realized I had religion. I had no God reality, that I didn't even know him. That to say I knew God was real was vacant for me. I felt distant, alone, and empty. This amazing grace came on me to repent. It was incredible how God snatched me. And I was just like crying and like, I don't even know if you're real. And I kept saying, my life is pitiful. My life is pitiful. My life is pitiful. And I cried out. I looked up at the rafters. I said, if you're real, if you're really real and you love me and can forgive me for all these things and have a plan for my life. And I just went, I'll live for you. And I can't even explain how the Spirit of God revealed himself to me and came and washed over me. And well, you can see I turned into a madman. It was 25 years ago. And look at me. I can't help it. I can't even calm down. I wouldn't know how. Because he's in me. 25 years ago. And I went bonkers. I know you have a hard time imagining me this excited, but I jumping up and down, spinning. I think I was pulling my hair, and I was yelling at work in the aisle going, you're real. You're really, really real. And I was like, ah! Like freaking out. Freaking out. So I'm like, oh my gosh. I can't settle down. About a half hour later, I think of my wife, and I go, oh, and watch this. This was amazing. My wife this, my wife that. I would have told you I hated her. She's this, she's that. She's crazy. I don't know why. She's irrational. I don't even know why I spent 13 years. I would have said such terrible things about my wife. But now I get born again, and I said, I'll live for you. I give my life to him. He comes into me. All of a sudden, a half hour after this happened, I thought about my wife, and I went, oh my goodness, she's amazing. She has tried so hard. I have heard her again and again and again. She's tried to be a peacemaker. She's given her cloak, her garment. She's given everything. Oh my goodness, I have crushed that woman. She is such a good girl. All of a sudden, I felt like I loved her. And I was thinking, she doesn't need change. She needs love. What happened to me? How could that love came into me and changed my lives? So I ran to a telephone to call her. And I didn't even know what I was going to say. I was just like, ah! Because we were, it was bad. Tension, bad. Putting the kids suffering in the middle, bad. Please don't let that stuff happen to you. Look at what it's producing and recognize it can't be the Lord. She's at home. Kids are in bed. She's sitting on the picnic table out back with a girl 10 years younger than her who's a barmaid. And I always would cynically call her a biker chick because Harleys would always come to her house and never leave. And sometimes it was more than one. And she'd do her garden in her yard in a little string bikini and always bend towards the road. And I was probably just envious I didn't own a Harley and that I was married. Can I be honest, or should I lie in church? So I'd mock her and scoff and like, and inside I would be like peeking out the garage window like, oh my goodness, look at her. She's sitting with her and this girl's teaching her and counseling her how to live her life and have fun and move forward and never look back to me. And my wife said, while she's drinking a mixed drink, my wife, you'd have to know my wife to know how hilarious the story is. She's drinking a mixed drink, smoking a joint. My wife. It's just sadly hilarious where pain will take you. She's smoking a joint, drinking, and she said, you know, it'd be just like my husband to call sometime or come and say, I found the Lord. And she said this girl was saying, well, don't you fall for it. These men don't realize what they had till they lose it. And then they come crawling back and try to say all the right things, and they're just selfish, and they just want to use you. Don't you ever let him back in your life. Don't you ever let him have a voice again. You cut him off, and don't you ever. And she was like, you stay away from him. Yeah. So go sleep with a guy that owns a Harley that could care less about you and have a one-night stand. Duh. Chaos without Jesus. So I called. She answered. I said, hey, Kim. She heard my voice. She said, what do you want? Oh, it was so cold. What do you want? I said, Kim, I'm not even sure. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm not even sure why I'm calling. I said, God, like he's real. And she went, click. She was so mad because she prayed all those years and I didn't get saved, and now we're done, and I get saved. So she attacked me, man. She attacked me. She's like, as soon as I saw her, and I went and saw her, because we were trying to live in the same house in different rooms and save money till we split up so that we weren't totally busted, and it was the worst idea on the planet. Because we wouldn't talk, look, it was just bad. The turmoil. I come in the door, she's waiting for me. She's timid, she's shy, she doesn't talk much. I shout her down, I'd overwhelm her with my words all the time. Not tonight, man, I don't even know what happened to her. Talk about Transformer movie. She's got claws. I think they were that long. I saw them. It was like, she's like, you, and how dare, and you think, and I was like, whoa. And I'm standing, and all I can tell you is I just kept thinking, God is so real. Oh, he loves her so much. But I didn't have a voice. I can't correct her. I can't tell her to change her mind. She'll claw my eyes out. Are you kidding me? She'll pull the heart right out of my chest. I mean, she manifested like vile. And I was like, and I cried, and I said, all I can tell you is I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but God is real. And I took off, and so she got so bitter. She said, okay, I'm on this quest. Because her conscience, who knows when you walk away from Jesus, you can't do it without knowing it. Who knows when you're living in sin, you can't do it without knowing it. Who knows when you're trained up in the Lord, whether you agree with your parents or not, just because you have that knowledge, you can't just go do something without thinking twice about it. Who knows? Come on. Oh, I lived that way for years, and it's miserable. And sometimes I would get so mad at conviction, I'd be like, get out of me. Leave me alone. What's that? That's the Lord. He'll never turn that off because he loves you. If he turned that off like a brute beast, the Bible says you'd walk into darkness and be destroyed. That's the Lord's love. What he's saying is every time, you're more than that. You have options. You're more than that. Love you. You have options. You get it? She went out of her way for 7 weeks to break my heart. Intentionally, on purpose. She dug down deep to be rude, cruel, and do things to break my heart. Now you stretch your imagination how far you could go. So I don't have to fill in the blanks. Doing it all to get me to do something that she could go, aha, see, you're not changed. And then that would relieve her conscience for a while. And all I could do was love her. So I'm just a couple weeks saved, and I go into work, and I'm getting vivid visions of my wife. Vivid, detailed visions of my wife. I'm like 4 weeks saved. I'm spiritual Huggies. I'm getting vivid visions, detailed, of my wife and where she is in the moment and the things that are happening. And I'm like, oh my goodness, Lord. She must be so hurt. God, I helped do this. Like, oh, Lord, would you have mercy? That's so not her. It never even dawned on me to go, what? She's where? She's doing what? About the fourth time I got these visions, I started praying. The Lord said, hey, this will bless you. Pay attention and catch this. He said, do you know why I'm showing you these things? And I was so innocent. I was like, well, yeah, so I can pray. He said, Dan, the reason I'm showing you is because I can. And you won't respond like a man. You'll respond like me. And that's when he told me there's many things he wants to show his people. But he can't because they haven't entered into oneness with his heart. And they'll respond like a man responds to the information instead of him. It was pretty amazing when we got restored, and I said, listen, I want you to know that I understand and realize this and this. And she said, how is that possible? I said, the Lord showed me everything in detail in visions. What? I said, in detail. And then I said, detail. And she said, no. I said, it's all okay. She said, you're not hurt? You're not angry? I mean, this changes everything. So it doesn't change anything. There was a confused, deceived woman out there that was hurt and driven by pain. I said, she's no longer alive. Welcome home. Love you. And we never talked about one thing because it doesn't matter. Can you see how free I am? Yay. So what happened was, she's in the bathroom. She's going out on the town. She's getting herself pretty. She's doing herself. She's got her curling on. She said he had that curling brush. She was doing her hair. And the Lord, who she went like this to, like 6 months before, he just strolled in the bathroom like he owns the place, confident as could be. He just stepped in there and went, poof. She said she went, and dropped the brush because the Lord of glory was standing right there. She couldn't see him, but she knew he was there. She heard his voice. He said, Kim, why are you so angry with that man? Can't you see? And she said it was like somebody ripped something off of her face. It was all the unresolved conflict, all the words, all the swords, all the hurt and the anger and the unforgiveness and the memories. Can't you see? That's not even the man you're angry with. Separating me from that guy. In fact, Kim, it's not even the man you married. Now watch what God told my wife, and he can't lie, and I love this part of the story. He said, in fact, Kim, that's not even the man you married. For I have made him a brand new man. So I don't even have to try. Guess what I am? A new creation, created in Christ Jesus. And she fell. She said she fell like a gunshot, and curled up in a ball and was bawling out of control on the bathroom floor. And then he hovered over her and he made peace with her. And you know what he said? He said, it's true you prayed for 13 years. What's he doing? Taking her back to her hang-up, to her rational wisdom. Yeah? Taking her back to her human reasoning. Outburst. He's hovering over. He said, it's true that you prayed for 13 years. But Kim, you don't understand how you bound my hands from moving. Because you never once prayed because of love. You always prayed because of hurt and because of pain. And you knew if I changed him, your day would be better. You never prayed because of mercy and because you loved him. You prayed because you couldn't take anymore. And he said, I can never answer that prayer and empower you to stay there because it's not me or my love. Now, how many people pray because they're hurt? Pray because they're angry. Pray because so-and-so's a jerk and he needs knocked off his horse. How many home groups surround the hurting wife and show her sympathy without truth and then pray for the husband to get smacked by God because they're angry at the man for mistreating the woman who's so sweet. And then we see very little change. Ain't that something? So I'm out in the yard. I'm working the garden. I love the garden. I'm Farmer Dan, man. I'm doing the beans. I remember I was doing the second round of beans. Yeah, it was in July, almost August. I was the end of July. I'm doing a late round of beans. And I hear the garage door slam. And I looked, and she busted open. And my little wife, big brown eyes, she's so non-threatening. She's running. I'm looking for swords, knives. She's running right at me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. She's running at me, crying hysterically. And she's muttering something over and over. And I'm like, what? I thought somebody died. I thought she got a phone call, and I thought somebody died. I thought there was a tragedy because she wouldn't even come to me and talk to me. But she's running dead at me, crying, out of control. And guess what she's saying? Here's the most amazing thing. Because I lived like a bum. I was heartless and unloving and selfish for 13 years. I used her sexually to fulfill my own wants. And even when I was mad, I'd act out and just, And then she's running to me going, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And she, poof, sorry. Now I'm, and it was messy. It was messy. Oh, there was fluids everywhere, buddy. And it was bothering me so bad that she was saying she was sorry. Because guess what? I'm sorry. And I'm ready to take responsibility. And I want the privilege to look her in the eyes and tell her the truth of what I see I was and what I want the honor of being. And forgive me and let's move on. And she has no reason to be sorry in my eyes. She's a champion. She endured me for 13 years. To me, she was a picture of the gospel to me. Even though she made mistakes and even though she grew weary and ended up shutting down. For me, I was impressed with her. And she's going, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And I said, stop saying you're sorry. Oh, my goodness, are you kidding? You have nothing to be sorry for. And I'm bawling, and it would have been a great ending movie scene, you know. I'm looking at her, and I'm like, and she's like, no, I'm sorry. And I'm like, honey, you don't realize how much I've been wanting to tell you. And she, it was unbelievable. And then she said, no, I am sorry. And I was like, threw in the towel and said, what could you possibly be sorry for? But see what the gospel does? The gospel comes and gets your eyes off people and the problem and gets your eyes back on you and says, what are you doing with your gift called life? And how are you letting everything around you decide you except for me? And maybe you ought to get back to me and you'll see things different. Why are you letting things and people and circumstances decide who you are and how you are when I'm the truth? So see, that's what happened to her. So guess what she said? I said, what could you be sorry for? She said, I'm so sorry for not loving you in prayer. She said, the only reason I prayed for you is because I was hurt. And I knew if God changed you, I'd have a better day. God told me I was reduced to another hurting wife that prays. And they could never answer that prayer because it was self-centered and had nothing to do with his love. She said, I never cried for you. I never loved you in prayer. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it was crazy. So I said, can I renew my wedding vow to you? She said, you mean there's hope for our marriage? Because I had told her the things and the visions. And she said, oh, this changed everything. It doesn't change nothing. And I held her and she cried. I said, we don't ever even have to mention it. I said, you're home. Welcome home. And she said, you mean there's hope for this marriage? I said, honey, I love you. And I would be honored to have the privilege of loving you like Christ loved the church and give me a chance to walk out Jesus in our marriage. And I would love and be honored if I could renew my wedding vow to you. Well, isn't this amazing how spontaneous you can be? I'm 7 weeks saved. I don't even know she's going to bust out the door. I didn't have a bunch of crinkled papers and eloquent speech prepared. I said, can I renew my wedding vow? I didn't have a clue what I was going to say. Like when I come up, I don't know what I'm going to preach. Dear Star, she wanted to know my title. And I was like, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm going to say. I panicked. Title. I don't know. Can I renew my wedding vow to you? She said, huh? I said, can I please renew my wedding vow to you? Guess what came out of me in 7 weeks old in the Lord? I held her little shoulders, looked in her big brown eyes that were full of tears. And I said, Kim, you owe me nothing in this marriage but to receive the love of God from me. And as long as I draw breath on this earth, I will serve you in his unfailing love. And she said, okay. And I just held her. So when she went into identity crisis 2.5 years later and went 8 years in deception and wouldn't even come to church and didn't want to live and had a mental almost breakdown. 8 years. You say 8 years, time doesn't know truth. Don't let time change the truth. Truth and time. Yeah? If a day is 1,000 years and 1,000 years a day, 8 years is nothing. It's just a privilege to love her every day when she needs it most. Who would say in those 8 years she needed Jesus desperately and needed truth desperately? Who would say she needed love and compassion like crazy? Who would say, boy, she really needs the Lord? Well, guess where he lives? In me, so now's not the time to be a frustrated, exasperated husband. I'm a man of God. Now's not the time to be self-centered and justify my motives. Now's the time to love her, just like he loved me all those years when I disregarded him. So I've had the privilege of loving my wife for 25 years. She would die for me. She would lay down her life for me. When I go home from this trip, she'll have something special there for me to eat that I like. She'll just be waiting. It'll be after midnight when I get home, and she'll have a note, and she'll have something there, or she'll be sitting up. She sticks stuff like this in my suitcase, my Bibles. Hope you have the best weekend ever. You're a true man of God, and I doubt God can find many men, if any, on this earth with your integrity, your character, and your heart. You want those notes from your wife because she lives with you. She's not a YouTube fan. She lives with you. Yeah. I got to go. I got a flight. I can't believe where time went. I have thoroughly preached the gospel to you this morning. There's so many things you can do in a Sunday. Right now, I feel like we need 3 hours. And I got to run. I actually got to go, like, out the door. I can't even hug you or talk to you. Right? I can't. I should be in the car, like, right now. And I'm sorry it's like that. I don't like that. It's the way it is because I'm 2 hours time zone. I just got to get on a plane. But listen, I have come here because I wanted to come. I'm not here by ball and chain. I'm not here by compulsion or obligation. I'm here because I want to come because I understand the value of people. Because now I understand the cross. There's nothing I preached this weekend that you can't live if you give your heart to truth and start living by faith and pursue a relationship with Jesus and be your own best friend and accountability partner. And if you hold yourself accountable and stop waiting for others, there is not one thing I preach that you can't become if you get in this race and don't look back. And if you feel like you messed up or slipped or made a mistake, get right up because that's not in your heart. And let his strength swallow up your weakness and keep growing in Christ. Are you with me? And let your lives be power-packed and full of life. Let your marriages be healthy and whole. Let your homes be filled with love and with Jesus. It takes one to pursue peace. It takes two to tango. It takes one to live Jesus.